Hello again. This is not the normal view here. This is over at the lathe, and you're looking straight down, directly down at the stuff here, and things are kind of complicated in why I'm doing this, and rather than just run on with only the view that you see and hearing my voice, I thought the way to approach this would be to go ahead and do something in real time without much explanation, without a lot of voiceover to accompany it. And then once that has been completed, I'll move the camera back over to the regular bench and take an assortment of the pieces, parts that I've used here, and explain what you just saw and why it could be interesting and useful to you. So it's kind of a way to know where things are headed. If I were to start out with a pile of parts on a table, you wouldn't really conceptually understand what's going on. If you see it all in action and then look at the pieces after the fact, it's going to make more sense. So we're going to take a molded stem and cut a tenon on it using a lathe, which is something that a lot of people don't even realize can happen. They think that there's really no reasonable way to chuck rubber of an unusual shape into a lathe without having a lot of wobbles and stuff. So we've got some specialty tools here that'll help us do that. And one is this silver gadget here, which I'll show you up close and describe later. And that has been tuned in terms of fit. Watch the needle way up here, and you'll notice that as I rotate the chuck, that needle's not moving, or within 1/1000th of an inch. So I'll tell you what that dial is later and explain what this guy is later, but it's imperative that this be well centered. So that is good to go. And now we're going to take the button end of this stem and place it into this widget that we just checked the alignment of. And that has to fit in here in a special way, and I'll show you that later. There we go. And the tailstock then comes into action. Yeah, we're losing track of tools here. There we go. And I'm using a wrench to tighten the tailstock in place on the rails, the bed of the lathe, and also giving it a bit of a crank. It's off camera, but the wheel that's at the end of, it's over here, I'm giving that about 1/8 of a turn to put some pressure this way. And then locking that in place with this little guy. So all that's left is to turn this thing on and make our cuts. We're going to do that with two different cutters. One is this triangular guy, and the other is whatever shape you call that. I'm not certain what a mathematician would describe that. But we're going to use the triangular one first, and I'll explain why, again, later with diagrams and drawings and stuff. In the meantime, we'll just get it done. That's if I can outsmart this thing. There we go. And as usual, I'm using so many lights and tripods for the cameras and so on that it's awkward for me to work under these conditions. I'm making the best of it, but if you ever wonder why I seem to be having trouble doing very fundamental things, it's because I'm operating practically blind with these violently bright studio lights in my eyes, as well as having to reach around all kinds of tripods and stuff like that. So I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. So here we go. And the dog you might hear barking in the background is just a big fluffy mutt that likes to make noise, so ignore him. Okay, here we go. And like a good boy, I make sure to turn off stop the rotation anytime I mess with tools or something. I don't need to be feeding my hand into the works of this. Again, I'll explain later why that triangular cutter was used first. In the meantime, I'll just get on with it. We'll take a second cut just to get her done here. Okay, that's about all we got time for here. The camera insists on overheating if I let it run more than about 10 minutes in the high def mode. I will take this out of here and let you see a close-up of the cuts that we made. And I think you'll agree that that's, I'm trying to get a little shine here. Now the end of this is slightly wonky. There's some, that we just touch up on a disc sander. But the, here we go. Rest of it looks pretty nice, and if we were to measure with calipers, it's going to come out right. I've got this thing all squared up and tested it many times. So that's all there is to cutting a tenon on a lathe if you have the proper widgets and doodads. So I'm going to now shut all this down and take the important pieces parts over to the other table and describe what they are and why you need them in order to do what I just did. So that is it. See you at the other bench directly.